Welcome back to diving into project management expertise. In our last episode, we explored how to properly structure a project to set it up for success. We broke down the work breakdown structure to organize tasks efficiently. We learned how milestones and deliverables keep projects on track. We discussed the importance of documentation to avoid confusion and prevent scope creep. But here's the challenge. Structuring a project is just the first step. Once your project is planned, the real question is, how do you actually execute it effectively? Project management frameworks help structure and guide projects from start to finish. But with so many options, Waterfall, Agile, Scrum, Kanban, how do you know which one to use? That's exactly what we'll cover in today's episode. By the end, you'll know what project management frameworks are and why they matter, the major frameworks used today and how they compare, how to select the best framework based on your project type. Each framework has its own strengths and weaknesses, and choosing the wrong one can lead to inefficiency, missed deadlines, and project failure. So let's dive in and find out which framework works best for you. Let's start with a simple question. What do all successful projects have in common? A clear structure. A project management framework is exactly that, a structured approach to planning, executing, and completing a project. It's the blueprint that determines how the entire project is run from start to finish. Imagine you are building a house. Would you start construction without a detailed blueprint? Of course not. Without it, you'd have missing walls, unstable foundations, and a disaster waiting to happen. The same applies to projects. Without a clear framework, things can quickly fall apart. So what does a project management framework define? A project management framework defines 4 key things: processes, how tasks move from planning to execution; roles, who is responsible for what; tools, the software and resources used to track progress; best practices, the guidelines that help to avoid failure. These elements ensure projects stay on track, within budget, and deliver real value. Now, not all projects are the same, which means not all frameworks work for every project. A project in the construction industry will require a very different approach compared to a software development project. For example, if you're building a bridge, you need a highly detailed step-by-step plan before construction begins. This means using a structured, predictive framework like Waterfall. But if you are developing a new mobile app where user needs and market demands change frequently, a flexible, iterative framework like Agile is the best choice. But what happens if your project doesn't fit neatly into either of these categories? That's where hybrid frameworks come in. A hybrid project management framework combines elements of Waterfall and Agile, allowing teams to plan strategically while staying adaptable. Many industries today can't afford to be 100% structured or 100% flexible. They need a balance of both. When should you use hybrid? Large, complex projects where some parts require strict planning while others need agility. Projects with both hardware and software components. Example: Tesla's self-driving cars. Hardware needs Waterfall, but AI software needs Agile. Companies transitioning from Waterfall to Agile hybrid allows teams to gradually introduce Agile while maintaining traditional structures. Example: think about product development at a company like Apple. The hardware, iPhones, MacBooks, follows a waterfall model because physical components require fixed specifications and long-term supply chain planning. The software, iOS and macOS, follows Agile because it needs frequent updates, iterations, and user feedback loops. By using hybrid frameworks, Apple ensures both the physical and digital parts of their products are developed effectively. Choosing the wrong framework can lead to project failure. Some frameworks are rigid and structured. They require upfront planning and little room for changes. Others are flexible and adaptive, allowing adjustments as new information emerges. Choosing the wrong framework can lead to missed deadlines, frustrated teams, and project failure. How do we choose the right one? To make things easier, we can categorize project management frameworks into three main types. Traditional or structured frameworks. These follow a step-by-step linear process. Modern, agile frameworks. These focus on flexibility, iteration, and fast adjustments. And hybrid approaches, a mix of both, depending on the project needs. So let's explore each category, starting with traditional frameworks. The Waterfall model is one of the oldest and most structured project management frameworks. It follows a linear, step-by-step process, where each phase must be completed before moving on to the next one. The phases usually include requirement gathering, understanding project needs, planning, creating a detailed roadmap, execution, where we do the actual work, testing, ensuring quality, and deployment, where we deliver the final product. Key characteristics. Once you move forward, you can't go back. That's why it's called Waterfall. Everything flows in one direction. This framework is often referred to as plan-driven, meaning that most of the decisions and designs must be finalized before any actual work begins. This makes it highly structured, but also less adaptable to change. When to use Waterfall? Large, well-defined projects where requirements are clear from the beginning. Industries where changes are costly, like construction, manufacturing, healthcare. Government or regulatory projects that require strict documentation and compliance. An example from a construction industry. Imagine you are building a skyscraper. You wouldn't start construction before finalizing the blueprints, right? That's why Waterfall works well for predictable, structured projects. Another example. In aerospace engineering, Waterfall is often used because strict regulatory guidelines mean that every design decision must be documented and approved before moving on to the next phase. This ensures safety, but also means changes can be extremely expensive. Limitations of Waterfall framework. Rigid structure. If requirements changed mid-project, it's difficult to adapt. High risk. If problems arise late in the process. Errors discovered in the final stages can be costly. And slow response to market changes. Not ideal for fast-moving industries. Example. Software development pitfall in the early 2000s. Microsoft's Windows Vista project followed a waterfall approach. One major issue was that the project took over 5 years to develop, and by the time it launched, consumer needs and market expectations had changed. Competitors like Apple had already introduced more user-friendly operating systems, leaving Vista outdated at launch. Another example, pharmaceutical industry. In the pharmaceutical industry, Waterfall is commonly used because drug development follows a strict FDA approval stages. However, this rigid process can make it difficult to pivot quickly if new medical research emerges mid-project. Why Waterfall is still relevant if our world is so fastly changing? Despite its limitations, Waterfall still has its place in industries where stability and predictability matter. Military projects, for instance, often require waterfall planning because national security protocols demand a strict approval process before implementation. However, if you're working in an industry that requires constant iteration, flexibility, you'll need a different approach. That's where Agile comes in. Agile is particularly useful for fast-evolving fields like AI and cybersecurity, where threats and innovations change on a daily basis, requiring teams to adjust quickly. Unlike Waterfall, Agile is all about flexibility, adaptability, and continuous improvement. Instead of planning everything upfront, Agile teams work in short, iterative cycles called sprints that allow them to adjust plans as they go. How Agile works? Rather than following a rigid sequence, Agile focuses on short development cycles called sprints, typically 1 to 4 weeks long. Frequent feedback loops. Stakeholders review and adjust at each sprint. Continuous improvement. Teams reflect on what's working and refine their approach. Key difference from Waterfall. With Agile, teams don't need to know everything at the start. They can test, adjust, and improve the project throughout its life cycle. When to use Agile? Fast-moving industries like software, startups, marketing. Projects where requirements may change. Teams that need frequent customer feedback. An example, mobile app development. Let's say you're developing a new mobile app. With Agile, you wouldn't wait 6 months to release a finished product. Instead, you'd launch a basic version, gather feedback, and improve it over the time. This allows your teams to pivot quickly without wasting months of effort. Real-world example, Spotify's Agile approach. Spotify is known for using Agile to continuously update its music streaming platform. Instead of releasing one major update per year, they roll out smaller improvements every few weeks. This keeps users engaged and allows them to adapt to industry trends. Challenges of Agile. Agile is powerful, but it's not for everyone. Here are some challenges. It requires a flexible mindset. Not all teams are comfortable with constant change. Stakeholders must be actively involved. Frequent reviews are needed for success. Not ideal for highly regulated industries, where strict compliance is required. An example, Agile in government projects. While Agile is popular in tech, some government projects struggle to adopt it due to strict regulatory requirements that demand extensive documentation before work begins. Agile is a broad approach, but to apply it successfully, teams often choose a structured framework to follow. Two of the most commonly used Agile frameworks are Scrum and Kanban, each designed for different types of work. Let's take a look at how they work and which one is best for your projects. Scrum, a structured sprint-based Agile framework with defined roles and ceremonies. Kanban, a visual, continuous flow approach that focuses on work efficiency. While both follow Agile principles, they are designed for different types of work. Scrum is a highly structured Agile framework that organizes work into sprints, fixed-length cycles, usually lasting 2 to 4 weeks. At the end of each sprint, the team reviews their progress, gathers feedback, and adjusts the plan before moving forward. The key features of Scrum is sprint planning. Teams define the work they will complete in a sprint. Daily stand-ups. Short daily meetings to align the team. Sprint reviews and retrospectives. Meetings to assess completed work and identify improvements. Defined roles. Includes a Scrum Master, Facilitator, Product Owner, manages priorities, and development team, executes tasks. So when can we use Scrum? Complex projects with evolving requirements, teams that work in structured iterations, and projects requiring frequent feedback and improvements. Example, video game development. Game development teams often use Scrum to manage new releases. They develop game features in short sprints, test them, and adjust based on player feedback before the final launch. Real-world example, NASA's software teams. NASA's software engineering teams use Scrum to manage mission-critical software development. They break large projects into smaller tasks, complete them in sprints, and continuously refine their code to meet strict safety and performance requirements. Kanban is a visual flow-based Agile framework that helps teams manage work efficiently without rigid sprint deadlines. Work items are represented on a Kanban board, which tracks progress using columns such as To Do, In Progress, and Done. Unlike Scrum, Kanban doesn't use time-box sprints. Teams pull work as capacity allows, making it ideal for workflows with unpredictable or continuous tasks. Key features of Kanban: continuous delivery, no fixed length sprints. Work is completed as soon as possible. Work in progress limits. Teams set limits on the number of tasks being worked on simultaneously. Focus on flow efficiency, helps avoid bottlenecks and improves cycle time. When to use Kanban? Projects with continuous ongoing work. Teams that need flexibility and no rigid deadlines. Best for maintenance, support and service-based work. Example: customer support teams. Kanban is widely used in IT support and customer service teams because work comes in unpredictably. Instead of planning work weeks in advance, support agents prioritize and resolve tickets as they arrive. Real-world example: Toyota's manufacturing system. Kanban originated in Toyota's production line, where visual boards were used to track inventory and production stages. Today, automotive manufacturers still use Kanban to streamline supply chains and reduce waste. Scrum versus Kanban. Which one should you use? Still not sure which framework to pick? Here's a simple breakdown. Use Scrum if you need a structured planning with set deadlines, your project requires iterations and team alignment, and your work in a highly collaborative, fast-changing environment. Use Kanban if your work is continuous and doesn't have strict deadlines. You need flexibility to adapt work priorities on the fly. Your project involves ongoing maintenance or support work. We've explored the major project management frameworks and how they influence the way teams work. Understanding these frameworks is key to choosing the right one for your project and ensuring successful execution. Key takeaways from this episode: Waterfall is best for structured, predictable projects where requirements are well defined upfront. Agile is ideal for fast-moving industries where flexibility and quick iterations are necessary. Scrum works well for teams that need structured planning in short, iterative cycles. Kanban is perfect for continuous workflows where tasks need to be managed efficiently without fixed deadlines. But there is no single best framework. The best choice depends on your team, project type, and industry needs. But choosing the right framework is just the first step. The real challenge is applying it successfully in the real world, where unexpected changes, resistance to new methods, and team dynamics can all impact how a framework is implemented. So, in the next episode, we'll go beyond theory and focus on real-world application. We'll look at how different industries apply these frameworks and what challenges arise, and how to adapt when things don't go as planned. Have you ever faced a situation where you struggle to implement a project framework? Which framework do you find most challenging to apply in your industry? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'll be reading and responding. This helps other people to find this video easier. And don't forget, like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. Share this with your colleagues because understanding project frameworks is a game changer for the teams. In episode 3, we'll bridge the gap between theory and practice, showing you how to take everything you've learned and actually use it in real-world projects. Thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye-bye!